Tony Gilroy dropped a bombshell in a recent Collider interview he did, talking about one of the things that Disney was not happy with in regards to season 1 of Andor. We're going to get into that and all the other important details in this article, so make sure you stick all the way to the end of the video so you don't miss any of it. Specifically, I think there's 6 things that Tony mentions in this article that are important for you to know. If you want to read the whole article, I'll link it down below, but I don't know, you probably are here because you don't want to read the article, so I'm not going to read it all to you. Here we go. I want to start at the front with what I said. The big thing, or one of the big things, because I think there's a number of them, but the moment that he said Disney was not happy with him was around the lack of something in season 1, meaning they wanted, Disney, and even probably a lot of the fans, wanted to see a reunion between Cassian Andor and K2SO.
I am taking them to imprison them in prison.
He is taking us to...
Quiet!
Tony says he has a really, really good reason why he's held off this meetup until season 2. Quite honestly, I think this is great news because it means the writer was able to do what he thought was best without the interference of people like Kathleen Kennedy or the execs at Disney, because all they want to do is sell nostalgia, and they know that's the only thing oftentimes bringing some Star Wars fans back, or at least that's been their strategy, and it's not working. So Tony Gilroy is going to do what's best for the story. Absolutely fantastic.
But wait! There's more!
The first question asked to Tony Gilroy in this interview was whether or not what he's writing and planning in season 1 and 2 of Andor is meant to parallel real-time events. Listen to what he says. It's really, really actually awesome. He says this: no one was working on the show with a newspaper. The sorry truth is, here's a cliche, history repeats itself. So I want to make the show timeless, I suppose. His goal isn't to really be a modern day critique of what's going on, but he's a student of history. He's studied rebellions. He's already talked about that in previous interviews. So what he's doing here in Andor very well may seem to appear to parallel to today's current events, because why? Nothing is new under the sun. It's all the same. It always repeats. We're going through things that people have gone through before, even though people today think it's completely unique. When you really take a step back and look at everything, Tony's right. History repeats itself. The third point I thought was really interesting about this article, in a question talking back and forth about the costume design, was this line from Tony Gilroy. He said, "Bow down to Michael Wilkinson." Michael Wilkinson is the one who's responsible for all the costumes. Everything that you see on the sets of Andor has Michael Wilkinson's hand in it. Tony also shares that if Michael doesn't win some type of awards, not that he's looking to win awards, but if Michael doesn't, he's going to be really disappointed. Just from the teasers and the trailers, as well as from season 1, we have a high expectation of what Andor is going to look like. The costumes, the sets, the developing these new cultures, what we saw with Aldhani, what we saw on Ferrix, we're starting to see in other ways as we're going to these different planets. Tony talks a little bit about the lavishness of some of everything going on here in season 2, and I'm really excited to dig in. But just again, I think it cannot go overstated, the attention to detail. One of the things that just blew me away and really that I absolutely loved about season 1 was that attention to detail. And that's what Tony's saying here, that every single frame is completely packed with everything that's supposed to be there. There's not a detail that's been overlooked. Absolutely fantastic. Number 4, Tony talks a little bit about the release schedule, because when we talk about season 1 of Andor, one of the big complaints was it's too slow. There's filler episodes. People weren't taking the patient time to understand basic 3-act storytelling, setup, tension, payoff, or whatever version of that you've heard. That's what Andor season 1 is. Every single kind of 3-episode arc is this setup, is this tension, and then a payoff. And some people don't want to sit through the setup, and they even get bored by the tension. They just want the payoff. So originally, when we heard that this was going to be releasing 3 episodes every week, I thought this might be a Tony Gilroy move, trying to get these little mini arcs out there, but really, it's a move by Disney. Tony did not have his hand in this, which I find really interesting. As I've been saying on the channel, you don't have to subscribe to Disney Plus for 3 months to watch all of Andor. You can do it in just 1. But I think there's a few other reasons. I think mainly they're trying to get the whole show out so that they can get done by award season, so they can be a part of all of that. I really think that's the ulterior motive. They understand that it's not going to be a revenue bringer in terms of Disney Plus subscriptions, at least not really. Number 5, there's one quote that Tony Gilroy says in this article that made me laugh out loud, and it's this 5th one where he's talking about how much he hates AI. And you're like, well, how did they get on that conversation? The question was asked if they were going to release the scripts to season 1 of Andor, as has previously been mentioned, is something they wanted to do. And this was Tony Gilroy's response. I wanted to do it. We put it together. It's really cool. I've seen it. I've loved it. AI is the reason we're not. And in the end, it would be 1,500 pages that came directly off this desk. I mean, terribly sadly, it's just too much of an X-ray and too easily absorbed. Why help the effing robots any more than you can? So it was an ego thing. It was a vanity that makes you want to do it. And the downside is real. So vanity loses. I think that's hilarious and sad all at the same time, that he doesn't want to release the script from Andor 1 because of the machine learning of AI to be able to look into the process even that much more deeply. Now, of course, you could probably find the transcripts of season 1, but I'm sure there's notes and ideas and all kinds of things of the reasons why they're doing it. And man, I want to read those 1,500 pages so badly. Thanks, AI. You screwed this one up too. But overall, I get why he's not wanting to do it. I wouldn't want to show all my secrets either, especially after having such success from season 1. Number 6, Cassian is mentioned as a messianic figure. Tony Gilroy is asked about what's going on in the character structure and what we're going to get in this season. Who are we going to lose? What's going to happen there? And he kind of says this line that I think some people have blown out of proportion, calling Cassian kind of a messianic figure. Well, in the context of his answer, what he's really saying, just like how Jesus is the main character and the whole point from the very beginning to the Bible to the very end of the Bible, it's all pointing to Jesus. It's all about Jesus. Even in the stories that may not be directly about him, it's all pointing towards him. It's all kind of leaning that way. So too, Andor season 2 is really even more about Cassian. Season 1 was about Cassian, but we got so many other really good characters that sometimes we forgot that it's really about Cassian's journey, Cassian's life. So what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing and what I'm thinking is going to happen, as per what he said, is this idea that Cassian, this messianic figure, why does he call him a messianic figure? It's not just that the stories focus on him, it's that Cassian is going to give his life for the sake of the galaxy, to save the galaxy. That certainly sounds a lot like Jesus. And along the way, he mentions the women that are kind of surrounding Cassian, that are the other parts of this story, where you have Vel, you have Sintis, you have Mon Mothma, you have Deirdre, some really interesting female characters. And he mentions how they're kind of like all swirling around this main character of Cassian, pretty similar to Jesus Christ. So I don't read too much into it. I think you can make the case that yes, Cassian is being built into that because this whole show is supposed to be about him. It is called Andor. Maybe that was a flaw from the beginning, but I think it's interesting that he looks at it that way. He also mentions in that same breath right after that he hopes this show makes you cry, that in fact he's going to be disappointed if you don't cry. And really what he's saying here is everything they've done, all of the writing, all of the buildup, all of the payoff is going to be hard at times, because it's not just, even he says, it's not just about people dying, but it's about the sacrifice it's going to take, or the sacrifice that people aren't willing to take. Now, I know at the front I said I would have 6, but there's a bonus one. But before we get to that, I want to show you something because I think you might like it, especially if you made it this far in the video. It means you enjoy Andor. It means you're looking forward to season 2, and I've got something for you that I want to show off. If you click the little shop icon down on the bottom, you can pick up your One Way Out t-shirt. Remember the best parts of Andor Season 1. You can get it in black, you can get it in white, you can get stickers. You can also pick up this hat on the shop if that's something you're looking to do. Again, all of this just helps support the channel, and I think it's something fun and cool for you. I really don't make much on these. It's really a tiny amount, but if it's something that you find interesting and something that you'd want, you can click on the link below and check it out. Now let's get back to our last takeaway from this article. So the last takeaway, the last thing that I found somewhat interesting is Tony Gilroy was asked, is he done with Star Wars? Now, he didn't exactly say he was done, but he kind of said, I'm done, in the sense of, he's like, I've spent 10 years of my life in the Star Wars universe. Like, that's a huge chunk of time for someone to spend dedicated to making films and TV shows in Star Wars. He's really proud of what he's done, and he has other things he wants to work on. Right now, he's raising funds to make a movie. It's not a political thriller. Instead, it's a music movie of some kind, but a passion project of his that he wants to do. So I have a feeling we are not going to see any more Tony Gilroy in Star Wars, and I think that's a bad thing. I would love to see him at least very well be a consultant and or writer in many different aspects, especially when it comes to building these complex sequences and building complex worlds and story building with characters. Man, I've just really appreciated what he's done. Well, that's everything I've said, but that's only one of the interviews he's done recently. There's still 2 more. So if you want to hear my breakdown of those, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on that bell for notifications so you don't miss when I drop those, because I'm going to do that pretty soon here. Guys, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Remember, the Force will be with you always.